Hey everybody, welcome to episode 88. Today's episode we're going to talk about this mini-series here, X-Terminators by Marvel Comics. This is the trade paperback. It collects all 5 issues. I said I picked this up on Amazon a little late in the game. I assumed there was such a thing, but I was thinking to myself, I really want to get those X-Terminator comics. So let me backtrack a little bit. So my friend, the Ruther friend, he said, I texted him one day. I said, "Hey, what are you reading? And what comics are you reading right now?" And he says, "Oh, there's a comic right now." And this was like right around Christmas time, the first of the year, because the issue 5 actually came out in January. It might have been right after the first of the year. Kind of wishing each other a New Year's type of thing, and. He said, "Yeah, you might want to pick up this comic called X-Terminators. It's really good." He says it's got a lot of stuff that you'd probably like in it. And it's funny that he said that because, and there's a lot of, it's real weird, there's a lot of similarities between this book and a comic that him and I did a few years ago called Reform School Girls. This was it was like an issue 0. It's just kind of like a primer issue 0 is going to be to these characters. We're going to try them out and see, where they go, and if they generate some buzz on them. It's been up for a while on. It's been out for a while. It's also been up on various places to download digital copy of it. It did okay. He was really kind of monitoring the numbers on it. He said it did really good in like Germany and a few other places. A few of the print copies were sold. I got a few here. I think I got about maybe 3 or 4 of my own that I had from the print copies. And we were also kind of testing out this new printing company called Greco. Was it Greco? Greco-Roman Wrestling? No, Greco Comics Wellspring, which is Greco printing. They put their ad in the back of the book. The back cover to it there. And, we kind of had this idea to do these, like, kind of misfit girls who are, in this, like, reform school girl, but they're all superheroes of some sort, or some kind of powers. Not all of them had powers, but, some of them were mutants, some of them were, like, space cowboys or cowgirls. Some of them were kind of like these weird gynoid / golems, this gold girl here, Midas. And one girl was a what do you call it? Not UFC, the football league, the girls' women's lingerie football, girl that was kind of this big girl with the skull face. There's a ninja girl. Ninja girl was actually an idea I had. A lot of these girls kind of came about of a bunch of ideas I had back in like 2013 for characters, and then him as well. Like the centipede character in the back, that's his character. I think her and Space Girl, or Astramina, I think we called her. I can't remember her name. It's been a while since I did this stuff. But here's the weird thing. Okay, look at the lettering, right? When I use the fonts. When I use the colors, I went from a pink to yellow, right? And I kind of, use that all throughout the comic in a lot of the stuff. That's pink to yellow, pink to yellow, pink to yellow. A lot of, like, if there's any like background fills and stuff, it was pink to yellow, a gradient. And I really thought that was just kind of like iconic for the, just looked really nice for the characters to kind of, every time, they'd be, cast on the screen or something, or cast on the page, they would have like this pink to yellow kind of kind of gradient, here and there. And again, I didn't know that at the time when I read this, but look at the graphic novel. What did they do? Well, it's yellow to pink. We did pink to yellow. They did yellow to pink. Now we did this this was 2016, around there. This was done in hey, we did it first. We were the first ones to do it. And this book also features a bunch of female superheroes from Marvel, and they weren't necessarily that they're like kind of delinquents or misfits. but they act like delinquents and misfits. It's very. There was a writing style that my friend did, and I kind of liked it at first. Certain characters kind of wore on me, but I really liked the way he handled like the personality of various characters. And this girl here, they're supposed to be delinquents, right? So, what's her face? Centipede. She was kind of like the bitchy, arrogant girl. She thought she was beautiful. She looked like a monster. She thought she was, super, narcissistic and, that type of character. And then some of the other characters, like Ninja Girl is the cold, calculated kind of like murder machine, which is basically the X-23 Wolverine, female Wolverine, and then you had, all the characters are kind of like the same. Problem is, in this book, though, they're all Centipede. They're all bitchy and mean. So it kind of took like that idea he had there and kind of really, like, all the characters kind of have that feel to them. And I gotta say, the Boom Boom character and Boom Boom and Dazzler are almost like, sometimes I don't know who is in the panel. Like, is that Dazzler talking or is that Boom Boom? They're both blondes and they both like act very similar to each other. And of course, X-23, she acts just like Ninja Girl. So it's just funny, and I can see why he suggested it. He's the one that wrote this comic. I did the artwork to it, and he was like, hey, you probably like this, but he didn't mention this. This is what he most likely meant. I talked to him a little bit about it since then. Yeah. So, of course I like it. It's pretty much our idea that we already had. They fight vampires in here. Well, on ours, they fight this, space blob that comes from, planet, Cygnus X1. I don't know exactly where it comes from. Yeah, he mentions it in here. It kind of chases down Astronomina, the space girl. It chases her down to Earth, and then back to the reform school where the girls are kind of locked in for Christmas, I think it's Christmas. And even the whole thing, like at the end when they're all drinking, they're all sitting on the roof, with a whole crate of wine, and they're all getting blitzed at the end, because that's what girls do. They're all alcoholics. And in this comic, of course, where is it at? At the very end, I think. Yeah, they're all sitting around at the bar in the comic and just getting blitzed. It's the same story. It's essentially the same story. This one's a lot longer. This one's only like 15 pages long. But I mean, it's essentially the same story for the most part. It follows a lot of the same beats. A lot of the same characters have the exact same sensibilities and stuff. I've got a PDF of this, so we'll go through the PDF to look at the pages. But gotta smell it. I love smelling new stuff. But yeah, so I was happy to get this. I wanted this for the collection. I get this instead of the individual issues. It's fine with me. And I finished reading it up the other day. I think yesterday. All 5 issues. And I had read it originally when it first came out, or ish, at the first of the year. And then I read it again. And on second read, some of the stuff I really just clued in. And then now I'm kind of started forming an opinion. I like this. I love the artwork, by the way. And I love the fact, it's just so interchangeable with our comic that we did. However, there's lots of things that they handled in this, and there's lots of things of a more modern sensibility. And also, Nathan, sorry, I give his name again, my friend, if you ever find the comic, you'll see he's credited in there, he's a guy writing girl characters, and he does a very good job. This one's written by a woman writing girl characters, and she's younger than us, probably by a lot. I think she's either a millennial or a zennial, I'm not sure. Probably a zennial. I haven't looked her up to see, how old she is, but she's not a bad writer. She's got the chops as far as, telling a story. I'm not a big fan of how she kind of paced or kind of structured it as far as with these, flashbacks and things. I'm not a huge fan of flashbacks, but her sensibility of writing these characters is so more modern than ours. And there's nothing really woke per se. I mean, I guess they're maybe. I mean, I guess the fact that they're all women, I guess that makes it a woke comic. Like I said, I don't really want to get into that whole social, argument that's, very prevalent on the internet today. That's not my concern. If I see that stuff, I'll point out things that I think are egregious. But I don't, for the most part, I try not to let that bother me. I roll my eyes when I see stuff, or, whatever. There's lots of things that just make me roll my eyes, like, oh, God, or face palm. But I try not to let that impede my judgment when it comes to, reading these stuff, especially these new comics. It's just so hard for me to get into new comics. There's so many comics out there, and I don't like a lot of them. And I would say most of them are because of the story, regardless of the agenda politics or whatever into it or whatever. Most of it comes on the story, and I think that this writer, Leah Williams, I think is her name. Look her up in the credits. She's I think she's a fine writer. She's not outstanding, She basically does what she does with this. I mean, there's a few things she does that just kind of like, I don't know if it was because when I write comics, I kind of have the same issue where, I kind of make people babble on too long. Sometimes I take a joke and it's like the joke kind of, was funny 10 minutes ago, and you're still talking about the joke. She does a lot of that stuff where she drags out the humor. It's like, okay, it was funny. Stop being funny like 3 pages ago. It's like we can end the joke, right? I think that just happens. I think that's just an organic thing that happens when you're writing comics. I mean, she's a professional working for, one of the major companies, so you would expect it to be a little more polished than that, but it happens. I'm not going to, and like I said, there's lots of other sensibilities that, you can tell it was written by a woman as opposed to written by a dude. And I'll get to some of those little things. Some little things just kind of, again, just make me roll my eyes, but not enough to, make me not like the comic. So let's get into it. Before I jump into that, I just want to let everybody know that I'm going to record the video for this tomorrow, but I just got back not that long ago from the record convention. I shot some video. I think I got some pretty good stuff. They're like really short little bits, so I can't really edit them together, but I'll load them up and we can go through them. And I'll show you, there's some, my son met my son there, his friend was there, and then, my ex-father-in-law took me, and then, we went to this thing. So it was pretty fun. I really liked it, but I'll get more into that in the video. But here's my haul that I got from that. I remember what I said, I'm probably going to find all the Angel albums there, right? Well, I did, except for one, but I got to... The thing is, before I do my video, because I want to tell you guys how they were, they need to be cleaned and they need to be tested out. And I'm going to do that this evening. It's Saturday night. I'm going to sit around, listen to some records, and clean them all, and and test them out. Because I've seen, most of them looked okay, but some of them had some pretty, decent scratches in them. So I'm hoping that they don't skip. But we'll test them out, clean them, see what happens. I won't show you everything I got, but I got pretty much all of the Angel albums except for one, but they're not in great condition. And I got them for really cheap, so that's why I don't really complain. I mean, if I can find better copies at some time, or if they skip, I'll definitely seek out better copies. But there's one that I've been looking for, and I got it cheap, and it's not in the best condition, but we'll check it out. So we'll do these. I'm going to do these tomorrow, and I'll do my video on that. So I just wanted to let you know that that's coming up next after this one. So let's get into this comic, the X-Terminators. Let's put it on the... Here's the CBR, the CBX or whatever they call them. Let's say there's the cover, obviously, with the lots of pinks and yellows. And if I do find a spot, I'm going to point out how close it is to our comic. It's funny. I don't think that the person who wrote this has ever seen our comic. Probably not. And so I don't think it's an issue of somebody stealing our ideas. I think this just happens. It seems like every time we do I think of something, because I've sat around brainstorming on all kinds of ideas. You name it. And like I said, if you don't act on them, somebody's going to come along and have the exact same idea. And, but we did act on it, but it didn't really pan out. Didn't really sell that well. And I didn't end up completing the second issue. We put it out as an ash can at the convention, and it is what it is. I've come to realize that original ideas don't sell. You can have all the original ideas you want. You can make some cool comics that you'd like, but they don't sell. It's just a fact. We know what sells. Comfort. Stuff that people are well-established characters. That's what sells. And I don't even know what the sales figures are. I should have looked the sales figures up on this miniseries, but I don't know how well it did either, to tell you the truth. And also, I gotta say right off the bat, because let's give you a warning, a spoiler alert. I'm not going to go through the story word for word, but I'm just going to show you, some stuff. But warning, this is an adult comic. It's by Marvel. I don't know if it's the Marvel Black or whatever it is, but it's not like they censor all their swearing and stuff. There's no like full out nudity or any other or sexual situations. However, it is very risque. And it's got some subject matter in it that's kind of adult. So just forewarning you now on that. Our comic also has the same problem. Now here's the thing. I also think that they both suffer from the exact same problem, and I'll tell you what that is in a little bit. And I think this is where some people pointed this out when we were doing our comic, and I noticed, and like I said, judging on what the sales figures, that this didn't do very well. I gotta think that they probably are suffering from the same thing we were suffering, and I'll get to that. But let's go through it. So let's... there's big yellow page. There's that pink and yellow again. All right, so the writer is... I guess it's Leah. I don't think it's Lee. I think it's Leah Williams. Carlos Gomez. Artwork is amazing. Love the artwork. Absolutely love the artwork. Color artist is Brian Valenza. I thought I was going to say Bryant Velez. It's a person we used to know who worked in comics. But that letter, all the other people are right there. I don't need to go through all of them. Some of the names are hard to pronounce for myself. I'm not going to get in. I've got opinions about modern comics and about certain things, like I said, and it's not really a woke thing, although it kind of is, but it's more like I don't think it has anything to do with the diversity or anything, diversity or inclusion. I think it has to do with money. And I won't get super into that, but like I said, a lot of people jump on the bandwagon, like, a diversity hire, blah, 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 blah. I don't think that's what it is. I think it has it's business and business economics. And I might touch on that a little bit, or get into that at some time. But I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to weigh this down with that type of stuff. When I do all of these comic reviews that I want to do, I'm going to try not to jump into that because it's so easy, and I don't want to sound like all these people online who are just like, endlessly, just being very hyperbolic and just going off on this. And I get tired of that too. I mean, I'm as tired of them talking about it as much as I'm tired of what they're talking about. Does that make sense? I just, kind of done with it, So yeah, each little thing has this little blurb, content advisory warning. Like I said, again, this isn't super adult. I mean, it's I would say it's like teen. I think they don't even give it a rating. I don't even think it's like NC. It's like, I would say it's 16 plus or 14 plus or something right around there. I mean, it's definitely not, hardcore or anything like that. It's not even softcore. I mean, it's just risque. It's just pretty much what it is. And again, that plays into a situation I find where if it didn't do well, just like our comic didn't do well, I think this might be something there. If you know me and you know my comics, right off panel 1, right? It's a close-up of Dazzler's butt. I mean, that's, like I said, that's, my friend's like, hey, you're going to like this comic. I wonder why. First page I opened up was like, all right, okay, here it's going to be like this, huh? And the thing is, I thought that was weird though, because I'm like, well, isn't this like, isn't everybody like anti this lately? And it's like they don't want to hypersexualize the characters. You know, all the characters are female, but they're trying not to hypersexualize any of them, which I find weird. But not this comic. This comic, they don't pull any punches with that. It's all in your face, literally, right there. It's in your face. I actually didn't get this page until later on, until I was reading the comic. I was like, oh, okay, this doesn't make a lot of sense here. This whole scene here. Like I said, it's the way it's structured. It's all over the place. And I don't like the way that it's kind of structured. I mean, it's clever in certain spots. Sometimes I find I just get lost. Like I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? So it doesn't read perfect. And then it kind of goes into it here. And of course, there's four main characters, but the three main ones are Dazzler, Boom Boom, and Jubilee. And I'm assuming Jubilee's, not a little kid, or not a teenager anymore. I'm assuming all these girls are young adults, 18 to 24-ish age. A Dazzler you would think would be older by now, but like it's comic book ages, who knows what's going on. And then of course X-23, the female Wolverine, she ends up showing up. I can't remember what her name is. She ends up showing up in it too, so there's technically four. So this would be book one. Like again, I'm not really gonna just go through the story crazy, but essentially what happens is Dazzler breaks up with this dude who's just a total, total Chad. Now I'm using modern, what do you call it? But I just say douchebag. He's just a modern douchebag, and it's funny because he's got here's the thing I find weird about this. Okay, if this guy, this is the stuff I zero in on, right? Here's a crate, or a record crate, and he's got a bunch of vinyl records in here, right? Now that we're talking about vinyl records, it's apropos. Okay, who would do this? Who would, put their records in this crate thing? I mean, I could see people doing that, but who would just leave the disc? This is how discs get scratched. This is how discs get ruined, is they would just leave them out, and they would, they're just laying on the floor. It's laying leaned up against this wood with no sleeve, right? I know people are like, it's just a comic book. They didn't think about that. But seriously, But the reason is okay, she's going to throw him out the window. And he's like, baby, no, please, not the vinyl. What the fuck do you care? You weren't taking care of him in the first place. All right, so she smashed all your vinyl records. Well, you were treating them like crap. You deserve it, you dickhead. As I said, I thought that was funny at first, and at the time when I first read this, I wasn't super, all in on the records. I was going to say something else, but we'll try to keep, even though there's some risque stuff, I'm going to try to keep my my banter down to a certain level too as well. But yeah, so she throws him out there. Like I said, I just thought that was crazy. Got Jubilee in her underwear right off the bat. So she breaks up with him. She's mad. She's like, I want to go and get drunk with all you girlfriends, right? And it's just like, this has nothing to do with the writer or the story, but just, I don't know. I have issues with, it seems like girls are always, it seems like a lot of women, they're all alcoholics, or they're all drinking all the time, and it's, I don't know. Like I said, I've got personal issues when it comes to alcohol because, so it killed my dad. So, it just seems like it's like, oh, we're all going to go get blitzed. It's just like, I've gotten shit-faced before, right? I'm not going to lie. I've gotten plastered for, woke up in pools of my own barf, or whatever you want to call it. I can't drink tequila ever again because of a tequila issue. So, I'm not saying that I didn't do this when I was young either. However, it was all like a rites of passage, meaning I just experimented into it, but I'd never really been much of a drinker. I'm not saying I don't drink, but it's too expensive. But if you're buying, I'll drink. That's always my thing. Is if you're buying, sure, I'll have a drink with you. But I'm not really going to go out of my way to drink myself. And the thing is, I've got acid, now that I'm older, I have acid reflux, and alcohol is a surefire way to bring that up. So before I even get blitzed or feel anything, all I'm worried about is I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night throwing up through my nose because the acid's going to come up. So I'm not much of a drinker. So it's like, I don't know, it just, I don't know. When I read this, it's like, I'm going to get, it's like, and, you know, I kind of felt that when we were doing the comic, too. I was just like, there's the girl. All the girls are going to get blitzed again. They're all going to get shit-faced. It's just like, it's such a chick thing to do. Not saying the dudes don't drink, obviously, but it just seems like there's more women that are constantly, you know, oh, we're going to go out. We got to go out and get drunk and hammered. It's just like, why? I want to forget away all my problems. Just forget about your problems. You know, do something else. Do something constructive. To get rid of your problems. I don't know. Sorry. I can't, you know, it's not like, yeah. People tell me, hey, just get over it. Hey, you know, I'm not going to get over it. So it's hard for me to tell other people, just get over your problems. You don't need alcohol to solve your problems. Anyways, like I said, most of my friends don't drink either. And the ones that were drinking had issues with drinking, and they don't drink anymore. So it's just like none of my dude friends really drink. So, you know, once in a while they might have a drink here and there, but they're definitely not going to go, let's go get hammered. You know, I'm not like that. So anyways, yeah. So, and there's Boom Boom. Like I said, Boom Boom, and I keep getting mixed up with Boom Boom and Dazzler sometimes. It's just like, okay. And of course they go get their crazy costume. Now I gotta say that Jubilee, I love a girl who's wearing an oversized sweatshirt, especially a jersey or something like, not like a jersey sweatshirt, like a jersey, you know, oversized shirt, and she's got just underwear on underneath, or, you know, something pretty revealing underneath. I think that's pretty hot. So she's definitely doing the whole, I think it's a little overboard with the fishnets, or the whatever they call it, the garter belt and the thigh-high stockings. I think it's a little overkill. I think just her in socks and tennis shoes would have been just fine. You know, I'm not really a big fan of their. And here's the thing about this is how you know it's written by a girl as opposed to written by a guy. Is it seems like girls will find any excuse to play dress up, right? It's like, it's got to be, you watch ASMR videos. It's like, okay, this is just you wanting to play dress up. You watch like not that I watch all these all the time, but I'm just saying, I come across stuff where it's just like, okay, what is this? I mean, even if you watch like adult content, right? Especially adult content created by women, like on OnlyFans and stuff like that. It's just like, this is so not what dudes want to watch or pay for. It's just like, I don't want to watch you try on and play dress up for an hour and show all the cute outfits that you love. It's just like, I don't want to see that. And a lot of that happens. I know that's a chick thing, and it's definitely not a dude thing, but I just face palm or roll my eyes whenever I see that. So anyways, yeah, so the girl, or the douchebag shows up, and he's a vampire. And here's the other thing is, I don't like vampires. I'm not a vampire. I don't say hate, but I really don't like vampire. Like I said, again, it comes back. I find vampires to be very the chicks love vampires, right? I know some dudes love vampires, but I do not care for vampires. I'm not a fan of I'm not really a fan of most traditional horror, you know, cliche, you know, whatever, archetypes like werewolves. I don't really care. I'm not a big fan of werewolves. I'm not really a fan of vampires. I don't like zombies. You know, when it comes to horror, I don't really know what I like. I like devil character. I like satanic stuff, like devil character, like satanic stuff. That's why I like Ghost. You know, I said I'm not a religious in any possible way, but I just like some of the imagery and stuff, like the satanic. I love like cultists and satanic stuff, and you know, we're worshiping some Beelzebub, so I mean, stuff like that. Hail Satan. So anyway, I like all that kind of stuff. You know, that's why I like the, you know, like the I get fascinated, like the Satanism stuff and stuff like that. But as far as like vampires and all the, like, you know, classic movie monster stuff, I just don't really care for. Classic, you know, horror myth stuff. You know, Frankenstein character, Frankenstein monster, I think is a little more interesting. Creature from Black Lagoon's kind of cool. He was always my favorite. But as far as like vampires and werewolves and stuff like that, I don't really care so much. Witches, I'm not really a big fan of either. I don't mind like again, I like cultists and like you know, like high priestesses and stuff. You know, a lot of stuff from like Dungeons and Dragons. Like I love the Drow, and I love that whole Drow mythos with the high priestesses and their like acolytes and all that stuff. I think that's cool. That's not what's in this. This is vampires. So again, right off the bat, it's one of those things where I just roll my eyes like, well, no, I'll keep reading. You know, it's not my cup of tea. I'll keep reading. But again, the artwork's amazing. You know, they really, you know, as far as the hypersexualization of the characters, I mean, it's pretty egregious. I could use a few more butt shots. There's not enough of them. But when they are, like as you can see in the first panel, when you get them in, you know, Technicolor Dreamcoat. I didn't understand, because the thing is, this happens, the story, they kind of like get like taken away to like this, I guess they're on a spaceship in space, and they find that out themselves later, and I'm like, I don't get that. There's a lot of things in the story that, like I said, as much as I kind of liked it, well, I still like it, but I mean, I just didn't get did I miss something here? And I had to kind of go back, and I'm like, I'm not really sure. How do we get from, they're in the club, right? And then something happens, there's an explosion, so they get like beamed up or something to like the mothership. I don't really get it, since suddenly Boom Boom's floating on like this like sewer water thing, and she makes a joke about, she thinks that Jubilee, you know, eats dairy, so she must have, you know, has gas or something. I don't want to hear that in my, that's one thing, I know there's people that are into weird fetishes and stuff, but I like to, in my world, girls don't poop, so, that's my fantasy world. So anyway, and then Jubilee's got this monster truck. Now that's pretty badass, but I just don't get, where did it come from? Like, what's going on? I mean, it kind of plays out almost like kind of a murder world, like Arcade's Murder World. And I'm currently actually working on a comic right now, you know, a webcomic that I've got going, and it's more of a play on Secret Wars than, say, like a Arcade Murder World, but it kind of has some similarities there as well. That maze looks pretty cool. Yeah, I didn't get it. I didn't understand, like, what's going, what? Where, you know, is this a dream sequence? You know, they don't really explain it very well. It just kind of happens. And here's the problem with this, and I find, like, when I get into Ahsoka and start talking about the Ahsoka series, I'm going to do that video very soon as well. I really don't like the storytelling, and I'm just as good. My storytelling does the exact same thing. You know, because I'm not a great storyteller. I mean, I consider myself a storyteller, but I'm not like a profound or very technical, you know, nuts and, you know, storyteller. I tell stories, and, you know, people seem to be entertained by them, but I'm not, you know, that's why I can't really fault, although they are professionals, you would think that they would be better than I am, but, you know, especially, you know, Filoni, who's, you know, wrote the Ahsoka series, but it just seems like things just happen, right? There's no, it just doesn't, it just, like, just things happen, and then they end, and that's kind of what this does, and stuff like Ahsoka does, you know, and like, so my comics, things just happen, and then they are done. Now, the banter and stuff is very, like, I mean, some of the banter that, you know, my buddy had going in this comic, you know, I thought was kind of cutting edge. It just seemed like, at the time, it seemed like something like modern younger girls would be saying. But now, this one's is a little bit more on point with that. I gotta say, to me, it's a little off-putting, just because, you know, I want to say it's millennials. It's you know, Gen Z speak, or even, you know, it's that kind of, you know, I mean, it goes beyond like the OMGs and the, I know right, and the as ifs and stuff like that. Or well, how, I'm not master at that either. When I do my stories with girls and they're being sarcastic and funny, I just say what I would say, And sometimes I try to make them sound a little contemporary, but I can only watch so much YouTube and listen to young people speak to find out. Or my son, he's in junior high, but he'll probably start speaking like that more and more as we go. A lot of the bruh, I can't stand bruh. Please don't say bruh. I can't stand saying bruh. I always said dude, right? I guess that's how you know we're for Gen X. Gen X people say dude, but young people now say bruh. It was bro, and then it become bruh, and then now it's breh. And I don't know how many times I just hear like my son like answer something, or they's talking on his games and stuff, and he's like breh. It is what it is. That's not the end of the world, but sometimes it's like a kick in the nads every time I hear it. And then of course I have a knee-jerk reaction to it, or just instantly. Get a little bit of Dazzler booty action there. Let's see. So they're themselves are kind of trying to figure out what's going on in the story, and then they kind of it's pretty overly violent, and it's lots of like it's not a lot of it seems like there's a lot of shock value in it just for the sake of shock value, and that's the other thing I find with like the swear. Now they usually like use the symbols and stuff for swearing, but obviously what they're saying some type of swear word. But this is the other thing I find is, and I found this with like that Harley Quinn show. It's just like, I don't like how people just swear for the sake of swearing. Like it's just like, hey, can we swear? Yeah, it's like F-ity F, or it's just like sounds so off, and so like normal people don't talk like that, right? I mean, people that are like really swear like sailors and stuff, they usually swear in a more not sophisticated, but they have more tax, not the word. They got more style, or they swear in a certain way. I mean, there's some people who really swear this F that, F-ity F, right? I've known lots of people like that. I've worked in shops, I've been a firefighter, been in the army, right? I've heard a lot of that stuff. I swear a lot, but not over abundance of swearing. But sometimes I find people in their writing, it's just like they swear just for the sake of swearing, and it's just like it doesn't sound natural. Nobody talks like that. And I found that to happen a lot in this comic. It's just like, and I find that to be a very young or a very new thing. Like it didn't happen before. But I gotta say, I mean, there's some jokes in it that I was, they definitely gave me a chuckle. That's funny. That's a good one. I like that one. It's some good material. So, yeah, I don't think that the Leah Williams humor is that bad. I think that she has a lot of, she seems like she has a lot of the same issues that a lot of people like her age have. And again, I mean, this is new too. I mean, people back in Marvel, I mean, they weren't swearing and stuff like that in Marvel back in the day. And, everything wasn't ironic, funny humor. Everything wasn't like meta humor. Everything wasn't like a reference to something, back in the day. Sometimes it kind of sort of was, but I mean, it was more dry humor, dry and like safe humor, even though some stuff was pretty funny. Nowadays, everything's got to be upped to the extreme. Everything's got to be this like, all the humor's got to be this ironic humor that's like a joke within a joke about a meta reference to something, and it's just like, that's fine. I mean, I do that too, but I don't know. I think I just do it better than everybody, even though I'm not that great of a writer. I mean, people like my stuff. People have said, I love your comics. They're freaking hilarious, which is great. I like that. I like that praise. And all right, make some memes. I'm doing a good job. Yeah, and then she shows up, obviously. I really like her character. When the X-23 thing came on the scene, like, I never saw the Logan movie. I didn't really care for her at first. I'm like, who is this little girl Wolverine? I just didn't like it, right? But now that she's older, she's, whatever, in her 20s or whatever, I gotta say I really like her character. And as Boom Boom was saying about her making fun of her costume, she's like, this is my uniform. I gotta say I'm not a huge fan of the costume. I don't mind the Wolverine mask, that's fine. I just think that the rest of the costume is just too busy and just not, I don't know, not a huge fan of it. And it's drawn differently all the time. But I really like her. I didn't before, but she's grown on me. I really like this character. That's it. I don't have any issues with a lot of the modern characters. People are like, oh, this characters, it's a Mary Sue and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, I can see that. I mean, that gets a little annoying, when a girl's character suddenly, she's like the master of everything right off the bat, and she doesn't go through the hero's journey. And that's a little, I don't know much about her. I mean, maybe X-23, I think she did go through the hero's journey, or at least there has been stories about that. But, and then I'll probably talk about this more when I'm talking about Ahsoka. But again, there's people that are really complaining right now about how all of the, every character is a female. And I gotta say that it is getting a little out of hand. There's no, it doesn't seem like there's any male characters anymore, But at the flip side of that, remember as I was saying, is I like the female characters. I mean, if you were to say back in like the 80s or even the early 90s, and I even kind of made reference to this. I remember standing in my trailer, or in my bedroom in the trailer park. This would have been like 1990. I think I was still in high school. No, 1992, and my real tall friend came in, or he was over at one point, and all his characters for the most part are female characters, and then the Ruther friend, this guy, he came over, and I said, what's his face was just here. I said, I don't know what it is with him. It's like every character he comes up with, they're all female characters, and then this guy, he goes, I don't think that's kind of cool. And it's like, I do think that's kind of cool. I think it's cool, and at the same time, it's just like, I just feel like it's like, oh, here we go again, right? It's another female character, but I like female characters. So you think, why do you have an issue with that? I don't know. I do and I don't at the exact same time. Like, yes, I like the female characters, but then I get sick of seeing so many of them. So nowadays, I think, like I said, I think modern, media, whether it's TV shows, movies, comic books, whatever, I think that they are a little overboard with it. But I like female characters. And then, like I said, a lot of people are like, oh, all these Marvel characters are all female and stuff. I like them. Some I like better than others. I'm not a big fan of Squirrel Girl, but I really like Spider-Gwen. I really like her. I really like, what's her, Silk. I like Gwenpool. I like a lot of these female characters. I don't really have any issues with the characters themselves. But and so then they're on. I'm not even going to get into the Krakoa thing. I got issues with this whole Hellfire Gala and all that stuff. But anyways, so they're on like, it's like this isn't a trial. Oh, you could have fooled me. It's like they're on kind of trial, and they're trying to recount what happens, but they're doing it like within the story. So that's how they kind of explain it, and it's just, I don't know. I find it a little. It's hard to follow sometimes, but I always have an issue with flashbacks where I get kind of lost. Like, what's going on again? So it's probably just me. But and of course they got her in they got her in the school. They got the Asian girl in the schoolgirl costume. They got her in the cheerleader costume. They've got Boom Boom and I guess like the Alice in Wonderland costume. And then what's her face? Laura, I think is her name. Laura something. She's in the witch costume. I'm not a big fan of witches, but she is pretty hot in that costume. So there's all these vampires watching. Like I said, I'm not really getting into the story. If you're watching this video and you're like, well, he's not really explaining the story. I'm not trying to explain the story, right? There's spoilers, sure, but I mean, at the same time, I'm not really like giving you like reading the story to you type of thing. It's not really what this is here for. I'm just giving you my reaction more of anything. But again, I love the artwork. I think the girls are drawn really well. They're very appealing. So that was issue 1. How much time do we got? We got about 15 minutes. She gets her arm cut off, and then she's, don't worry, it's going to grow back. Ha ha ha. She's got Wolverine's healing factor. And then like some of their reflections come to life, yada yada yada. There's a pretty nice. This is the type of stuff that I would draw right here. Right, you got girls wrestling each other, doing some kind of like crab hold. You know, you got butt-to-butt action here. It's just like, this is totally something that I would do. Of course, I would probably make it, you know, more adult. And again, that'll be my final comments. And again, also, I need to find out how well this did. I'm not sure. I don't know if the numbers are up in Comic-Con. Comic-Con's not really the best barometer either, but I'm just wondering how well it did. So, there's issue 3. Just kind of flipping through it here. Back to the thing again there. She's in that. So let's see if there's anything else. Oh yeah, she flashes everybody with her boobs. Boom, boom. Again, like I said, it's risque. And they don't pull their. Well, I guess they do pull their. They don't pull their punches, but they do pull their punches. I don't think Marvel's going to come out and do anything that's egregiously adult. Even if it's going to be their adult Marvel, which really isn't that adult. Then they find out they're on a spaceship, yada yada yada. The whole premise of the story, I liked all all the alien girls. Here we go. They're all playing dress up, right? It's like, oh my god, they're all going to play dress up. They're all wearing like these little costumes, and they're like, I want that costume. Oh, I want that costume. It's just like, ugh. But some of these, I think she's appealing. She's very appealing, obviously. There, this girl's kind of neat looking. You know, some real more weird alien-esque ones in the background. But they're a bunch of them that have been pulled from like all of their worlds, and they're by this vampire guy, which is supposedly this is supposed to be the grandson of Dracula. Dracula is a character in the Marvel Universe, obviously the Tomb of Dracula. So, you know, he's like the lead, he's like the original Dracula. He's the, you know, vampires don't die. So or they're already undead. So he's, you know, it's still Dracula, but he's got a grandson, and this is the grandson, and he's a douche. But he's like he's like a total like, you know, like Hunter Biden type of character. She looks really nice in that. I got a thing for cheerleader outfits, too. Who doesn't? I mean, if you're a dude, who doesn't? But anyways, and then, I should put on the witch costume. I think it's appealing, but I'm not a huge witch fan. So eventually they end up getting him. Then they end up back in Krakoa. The regular X-Men are playing. They're doing the whole, you know, playing the softball game thing like they've always done. And then they kind of show up with all of the other girls because they couldn't take them back to their own worlds. They had to bring them. That's like a dude unicorn there. There's a character like this in our Captain Cooley called the Black Unicorn. So there's so many things that we came up with first. Anyways, I thought this is odd. They put Emma Frost in her like really skimpy costume, obviously because of the comic, because of what it is. But and of course they're all drinking. Why is everybody drinking all the time? I don't know why I have such an issue with it, but just it irritates me. I think my friends, he was talking about doing, you know, having the characters be drug addicts and stuff, and he's like, why is Tim so uptight about having the characters be drug addicts and stuff? I don't know, it just makes me kind of roll my eyes and just kind of like, maybe I can't explain it. But and then Dracula shows up himself and blah blah blah. Again, read the story if you want to. I highly suggest it. So then it comes up. So that's why she's in the roller skates. This is towards the end of the show. They're playing dress up again. And there we go. There's a, you get more butt shots of what's her face, Dazzler. And they make, there's a comment in here where they're talking how they're obsessed with her butt, and I just find that funny. I obviously, my friend's probably, hey, you gotta check out this comic. It's right up your alley, literally. But it's just weird. It's just like this. How did this comic kind of get past Marvel editing? It just seems like that's like I said, they're not really wanting to hypersexualize the characters, but they let them have free reign in this one, which is just weird. I find that weird. Just inconsistent. It's just weird. But yeah. Again, I think the strongest thing I find about this comic is the artwork is just amazing. You know, I just think a lot of it's just great. I'm not a huge fan of that paneling. I like more of a traditional panel, but I'm kind of branching out myself and getting a little bit more loosening up on the panel, the page layouts and stuff. I'm not going to say I'm going to go full bore modern comics like this, which this all stuff kind of came. I mean, obviously, what's his face? Neil Adams was the one to kind of first start doing this, but they really took this to the extreme in the 90s with Image and that whole thing where it's just like everything was like, it's like sometimes like going, I can't follow this comic. It's so it's so disjointed, but most of them have been okay. Like I said, my problem with not following the story is just kind of how the structure of the plot, the storytelling kind of unfolds with a lot of flashbacks and flipping back and forth. I don't like a lot of that. I never have. You know, even in classics back in the day, I never liked a lot of flashbacks. But Magic shows up towards the end. So she gets our. I can't remember what happens here. Something. I started to lose it towards the end. I was like, I don't understand. I got to go back and read it again. It's just some things just didn't make sense to me. There they are. Let's go. It's beer o'clock, sluts. Oh, that's such a cringe line. And what did Centipede say in our comic? She says something like, "All right, bitches," or you know, whatever. All right, sluts. It's just like, I really don't like it. And nothing against my friend or the story. Nothing at this. I just don't like it when chicks are like, you know, they do that whole like. And I could just hear the voice. I mean, I don't know what her voice sounds like, but I could just hear like the really annoying, obnoxious, you know, like party girl voice. It was not just kind of party girl voice, but she also has kind of like that mom voice. You know what I'm talking? Like this, like rich, like overprivileged, you know, hey, you know, I mean, like that type of thing. And she's like, hey, sluts, hey, bitches. And it's just like, it totally makes me cringe whenever I hear that. And I think even she cringes here. She's like, oh, I can't believe you guys are such a bad influence. I can't believe, you know, that felt gross. I thought that's funny. That's funny. Because she doesn't normally talk like that, and I thought that was funny. But when I first read that, I was like, I was like instant knee-jerk reaction, like going like, oh! And then they gotta get hammered again, of course, because that's what chicks do. They love to get hammered all the time. And like I said, just like the end of our comic, that's what they do. They all get hammered at the end of the comic. There they are on the roof, drinking a case of wine that they found or something. I can't remember how it went. Yeah. Wine, too. I'm not a... I really not a huge beer fan either. I don't know. I'm just not an alcohol fan. Sorry. I like my my cheap powdered mango green tea and my big K-pop. And I like my Monsters. They're not good for you. I like my Monsters and Rockstars. Just because I don't drink coffee, I need something. You know, I'm already yawning. It's afternoon and I'm yawning again. Yeah, so I think it's great. I really like it. My final thoughts on it are this. And again, this is what I'm going to close on because I find that our comic had a lot of the same problems. Is when you do a comic that's risque, and you've got female characters in it, you know, exclusively for the most part, and they're hypersexualized, you know, how they're drawn and situations you're putting them into, you know, and just the way they act. I find if you don't go all the way, meaning if you don't make it not safe for work, or you not make it adult or X-rated, whatever, or triple X-rated, whatever you want to call it, I feel like it's a tease. It's like, I find that it might be off-putting to people, because the people who really enjoy that type of stuff, you know, or my fans, if you get those people, they want to see they want to see the girls make out. They want to see the girls, you know, have sex with each other, you know, or you know, have sex with men, whatever. You know, doesn't have to necessarily be, just because they're all a bunch of girls together, it means they all have to be lesbians. You know what I mean? But I'm saying is dudes want to see that stuff, or the fans of that kind of stuff. I'm not saying they're all dudes, because there might be some girls who like that stuff too. I think I've got a few female fans that like my stuff. I still question if they're really females or not. But anyway, I don't, you know, I think if you do this route, I think it's a letdown to people. They want you to go, if you're gonna put your feet in that water, if you're gonna commit to that type of story, I think that they want you to go. It doesn't have to be just straight up porn. I mean, it doesn't just go into hardcore porn. I mean, they want it to escalate a little bit more, right? They don't want it to be so PG-13, or I guess is that PG-13? I guess it'd be PG-13, because it's got sexual innuendos and comments and hypersexualized costumes and characters, but nobody's really getting naked, nobody's having sex, and even the swearing and the profanity is you know, is stymied with, you know, doing the editing and stuff. Now, I just swear in mine. I don't really cover up the swearing. It doesn't seem to be any issue with just all-out, flat-out gore and violence. It doesn't seem like that even is a thing. I don't think anybody cares about that. I mean, obviously, there's some people who don't want their kids to be reading lots of overly violent and gory things, but at the same time, I think you can make things, you know, you can make things, you know, whatever, hostile. You can make things just all out gory and extreme. And again, at some point, it just gets silly. It's just like, this is stupid. I don't like torture porn, by the way. I can't stand it. Like Saw movies and stuff, I can't stand those. I don't want to sit through those. It's not that I get squeamish. I just don't want to. I don't want to hear that. You know. And I don't want to see that, and I don't really care for that kind of storytelling. It's just like that doesn't do it for me. But you know, I think that if you, again, I've got to look up the sales numbers. I'm assuming it did okay, but if it didn't do that well, I think that might have something to do with it. Because, like I said, this is out of place for this, and this is why I'm pointing this out. This is something that I would do. Or we have done, but it's not the normal Marvel fare, and it just seems out of place. It seems like that it doesn't fit. But the thing is, it's done by a female writer, so maybe she gets a pass. Like, I don't think they could have done this if it was written by dudes, something like this. And that's another reason why I don't think our comic did as well, is because they're like, oh, it's hypersexualized characters, it's tongue-in-cheek, it's risque, you know, but it's by a bunch of dudes. It's just like, we don't get the pass. We don't get the get-out-of-jail-free card, and because we're dudes doing it. So somehow, I guess that just it offends people or turns people off to it, as opposed to, this, it's a guy doing the artwork, but, and the thing about the guy doing the artwork is, like I said, there's so many people who are, either they're Mexican artists, which they do some outstanding artwork, a lot of Italian artists. It seems like a lot of foreign artists doing a lot of this stuff, and I think that the reason, and people are like, oh, it's diversity, it's a diversity hire. I don't think that's what it is. I think what it is they'll work for cheap. They'll work for less money, and if they can bring their cost of production down and raise their, maximize profits. I think if somebody in, say, like Mexico will do the artwork for half the price that some American guy would do it, or girl, they're going to go with that. And it just seems like that's what they're really doing. It's almost like, outsourcing all the auto production to other countries, or outsourcing manufacturing in general to other countries, that have less economic growth, as it's not as rich as we are, because people will work cheaper over there. I think that's what's going on here. They're a corporation. They're owned by, Disney. I'm pretty sure that these people are hiring all of these people from other countries, not as diversity hires, but because they'll work for cheaper than some, hey, I'm a comic book artist. What do you want a page? I need $250 a page, right? $200 a page, right? And they're like, this guy will do it for 110. Well, I can't work for 110. Well, he will, because, he's from another country where $110 is worth more. It's worth $250 in his country. So where are they going to go? They're going to go and hire that guy. I mean, it's simple economics, simple business 101. Not that I know business that well, but anyways, as far as that, I don't have a formal education in business, let's put it that way. So my catchphrase, of course, is everything 101. Yeah, I don't know. I like it. I highly recommend it. That's one thing I can say, is I can highly recommend this. If you're into that type of, if you like that kind of, what I've been talking about, if that's your cup of tea, I suggest it. If that's not your cup of tea, I would probably pass it. I would probably hard pass for you guys. I wouldn't get it. If that stuff kind of, hypersexualizing characters offends you, or you don't, turns you off, then don't get it. Don't read it. In that case, I don't recommend it. But if you like this type of stuff, and again, this is a hard plug for our stuff too. Again, if you want to know about my stuff, just let me know. Just send me a message saying you're interested, and I'll send you in the right direction. But my stuff, this is definitely this, right? And that's kind of where I was at for a while. Now my stuff has pushed the envelope. It's become adult and not safe for work, because that's what sells, and that's what makes me money. So my stuff's pretty hardcore. It's not. It is and it isn't. I gotta say. When you really look at my stuff, it's hardcore, but it is. But it's. You have to see what I'm talking about. And one of these days I'll analyze my own artwork. But yeah, I take this with characters like this. I use a lot of. It's basically glorified fan art, which I'll get into that with comic book artists that do work for other companies. I consider that glorified fan art too. If you didn't make up the character and you're working for a company, you're a fan. You're a professional at that point, yes. But I don't see that there's any difference. I won't get all into that. But yeah, I do. And I get away with it because I fall under fair use laws of parody, because all my stuff is. I'm parodying everything. Everything is a satirical parody of pre-existing stuff. None of the stuff that I do, right? This type of stuff. If I did this type of stuff with their characters, it could still fall under parody. But the thing is, they would put something out like that, which they have. The stuff that I do now is normally never going to put stuff out like that. So I'm not really taking away. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? But yeah, I fall under fair use laws because of parody, and that's what I do. That's why I make sure it's an integral part of my stuff, because that's how I have to, you have to justify it at the end of the day. I have to go. So I will talk to you guys later, and catch you on the other side. All right, bye-bye.